Good evening, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to post something that actually mattered on social media because, as you know, I'm usually posting my ass and titties everywhere for your viewing pleasure. But as you may have noticed over the past few days, I have been refraining from doing that because I feel that there are a lot more important things to be talking about. Now, I've seen some of you claim that posting on social media doesn't really do anything. I don't understand that because didn't we all just learn TikTok dances together because they were posted on social media? Don't we all know that catchy little Carol Baskin song or that Bored in the House song because of social media? Don't use that it won't make a difference for you to make a statement as an excuse if you're too scared or don't care enough to be vocal, because that's a bold-faced lie. Now, I've always been a very vocal supporter of causes that I believe in. And the Black Lives Matter movement is one of those causes that I have relentlessly supported. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, don't even try to counter this statement with any all lives matter statements. We all know that all lives matter. But saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is like calling the fire department to spray down your entire neighborhood because your neighbor's house is on fire. That would be ridiculous, right? Now, does that mean that all the other homes in the neighborhood don't matter? Of course it doesn't. It just means that those homes are the homes that are currently on fire. The system in this country was not set up to protect or benefit Black and brown people. I'll tell you why. It wasn't until the abolition of slavery and the passing of the 14th Amendment that Black men were even granted personhood. That means that the founders of this country that we celebrate every 4th of July by plastering their faces on hats and t-shirts and cups and napkins and other memorabilia didn't even consider my people to be human. Do you think that they had our interests in mind when writing the Constitution? That's a rhetorical question. This land was cultivated and this country was built on the backs of Black people after being stolen from Native American people. The system isn't broken, as some of you have claimed. It was built this way. It's simply just working as planned. Ironically enough, in the midst of the civil unrest occurring, today is actually the anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre that happened on May 31st and June 1st in 1921. It was one of the worst and deadliest mass racial violence incidents in the history of this country. And it was successfully covered up by the government for decades. Black homes, Black churches, and Black businesses were all burnt to the ground by a racist, white supremacist mob that reportedly included government officials. They covered it up, didn't they? Approximately 1,200 homes burned to the ground, and it's estimated that 300 Black people died. When the real facts came out, the government then dubbed it the Tulsa Race Riot. You get the implication. The Civil Rights Act wasn't signed until the year 1964. That was only 56 years ago. My own Black father will be 57 this year. He was literally born into a country that didn't believe he deserved equal rights simply because of the color of his skin. And even then, that didn't mean that civil unrest for my people magically ended with the signing of that legislation. Martin Luther King Jr., who a lot of y'all keep quoting right now, wasn't assassinated until 1968. The devastating and lingering effects of segregation, gentrification, and the fact that Black and brown people were held down for so long in this country that we didn't get the privilege to build generational wealth like white citizens did. The effects of those things are ever present to this day. When you see Black and brown people living in the slums and ghettos and on reservations, remember, the government put us there. We didn't choose to be there. When you talk about Black on Black crime or gang mentality or Black men becoming thugs, remember that everything has a cause and an effect. You can't relentlessly strip someone of their dignity and then expect them to act dignified. The system was never set up for us. It was never set up to protect or benefit us. And historically, it took a lot of marching, protesting, and yes, even rioting to get to the point that we are today. And the point that we are at now is still very bleak, as evidenced by what's happening right now. The consistent government-sanctioned slaughter of innocent Black bodies. So the next time you see a protest, a march, or even a riot happening in the name of Black Lives Matter, remember, there are multiple events that led to this catalyst. We are not trying to start a race war, as many of you presume. We are trying to end one. Now, I'm going to speak directly to my brothers and sisters who are out there marching, supporting, helping. I commend you. Stay safe, stay peaceful, unless they fuck with you. To the people out there rioting, some of you incited by the police. Stay safe. Don't get hurt. Try not to hurt anyone else. I won't be out there rioting with you, but I understand why you feel the need to. June is Pride Month. It starts tomorrow. As many of you know, the Stonewall riots are what sparked the beginning of the gay liberation movement. Rebelling, rioting, and sparking revolution is not only historically American, but it also is historically successful. As Martin Luther King once said, a riot is the language of the unheard, and we have been unheard for far too long. Since we're on the topic of Martin Luther King Jr., and a lot of people are misappropriating his legacy in order to condemn riots, I'm going to tell you a little story. Do you know about the nationwide riots that occurred after he was assassinated? Those riots have been dubbed the greatest wave of social unrest in the United States since the Civil War. They rioted so hard that they caused millions of dollars in damages, over 40 deaths, most of them rioters, because it was much easier to get away with killing a Black person back then than it is now, even though it really doesn't seem like it. Over 2,500 people suffered injuries, and over 15,000 rioters were arrested. And do you want to know what those riots accomplished? Well, on April 10th, the Civil Rights Act of 1968, yes, another Civil Rights Act, because we couldn't get it right the first time, and we still can't get it right today, that act was passed. And it finally included the Fair Housing Act that Martin Luther King Jr. was campaigning for up until his death, with no success. It is said that the Rules Committee was jolted by repeated civil disturbances right outside their doors and were virtually forced to end their hearings on April 8th. For reference, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. A lot of you didn't know that, did you? And for those of you who ask, that's why Black History Month is a necessity, because our nation doesn't teach it, and obviously you didn't learn it. To the police, the white supremacists, and radical left-wing plants within the protests who are inciting these riots, fuck you. I know for a fact that this is occurring because I witnessed it live yesterday in Dallas, where my friends were tear gassed and shot with rubber bullets simply for backing up when the police told them to back up. You know exactly what you're doing. You're turning these peaceful demonstrations into riots to fit your own narrative. Like I stated earlier, you can't strip people of their dignity and then expect them to act dignified. To the law enforcement officials marching, kneeling, and treating protesters like humans, thank you. I commend you. I've seen this happen in my own hometown of New Orleans. They released a statement today saying that they're proud of protesters for keeping their demonstrations peaceful. And that's probably due to the fact that they didn't go out there and tear gas and spray rubber bullets at everyone. Thank you. I just ask that you keep that same energy when it comes to reporting your brothers and sisters in blue for wrongdoing. Now, I have something to address. It has come to my attention that a couple of nightclub and restaurant owners in the Dallas area are trying to blacklist me because of my views on looting. Well, my views on the protests, but on looting in particular. Well, darling, as a black woman born in South Louisiana, I was born blacklisted, so that does not affect me. Apparently, by stating that I understand the reason why people who have been disenfranchised by this country for over 400 years would react to their own people being slaughtered in the streets, violently reacting to that somehow means that I am okay with their windows being broken and their businesses being looted. I never once stated that I supported or condoned looting. My actual statement directly referencing looting was this, which I posted for all to see. I'm sorry that my understanding of human psychology and history and my compassion for disenfranchised people surpasses your own understanding. But that's hardly my fault. Educate yourself before threatening me. Riddle me this. Every time a white male mass shooter goes on a mass shooting spree, the first thing that we reference is mental health. Or we delve into his home life to determine if it was volatile enough to render this behavior. So because we try to understand the psychological reasoning behind why people would commit such a heinous act such as mass murder, does that mean that we are condoning mass shootings? It clearly doesn't. So if you can extend that level of understanding to mass murderers, why can't you extend that same level of understanding to disenfranchised black and brown people? Furthermore, my biggest issue with your remarks is the fact that you failed to make any statement regarding the issue that caused the protesting, rioting, and looting in the first place. But you're now focusing solely on the looting because it has directly affected you and your bank accounts. Because you don't care. You own bars, restaurants, and nightclubs that profit off of black people, but you do not give a damn about issues that affect us. One of you even owns a nightclub that caters to African American and Latino people. I've been to it. You take our money, you play our music, you partake in our culture, but you refuse to take a stance on our issues until incidents evolving from those issues directly affect your pockets. Yet you have the audacity to drunkenly text me at 1 a.m. and argue with me on Facebook over property damage is very telling. I was someone who you considered an African American friend. And your first conversation with me regarding this issue is to tell me to lose your number? Because I stated that I understand why disenfranchised people can have the propensity to smash windows and steal some tennis shoes? Really? FYI, everyone, I have all the screenshots pertaining to this, and I am being very vague in my statements because I am not going to out these people by name and by the names of their places, because I want to give them a chance to come to me and talk to me like men and not how I was initially disrespectfully approached. But I will share this one screenshot because it is so symbolic of how absolutely ridiculous it is that some people are prioritizing money and material possessions over American lives. Windows. Do I believe that breaking into businesses, looting them, and setting them on fire, potentially affecting the livelihood of that business or their employees is right? Of course not. However, I do know that insurance claims can be placed, money can be raised, and replacing inanimate objects can be done. You can't do the same for the countless human lives that people are marching for today. Take a lesson from the CEO of Target. I've shared his statement. We all know that two wrongs don't make a right, but the wrong that you are choosing to focus on tells me a lot about your character. So you can blacklist me all you want, baby. And finally, to my white and non-black friends who have taken this opportunity to use their platforms to speak out against racism, murder, and tyranny, thank you. To my other friends who love black music, some of you even making money by playing our music to the black patrons at your jobs. To my friends who want to dress like rappers and partake in African American culture through fashion and hairstyles, but are silent when it comes to African American issues, you could kiss my black ass. Just like our founders, you obviously don't see us as humans. You just see us as a commodity that you can copy and even exploit for money. As stated in a cute little meme that I posted earlier today, it's not black versus white. It's all of us versus racism. And I'll even go on further to say that it's all of us versus racism and tyranny. If you want to get down with us, then you got to stand up with us. No justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter. Good night.